Americans. Every morning in America, from the steel mills of Pittsburgh to the farmlands of Iowa and the tech startups in Texas, Americans wake up to alarm clocks set far too early. In homes, Americans are struggling to afford to jobs that rarely reflect the true value of American labor and grit. Over many decades, Washington insiders turned our government into their personal investment club, into a system of government that serves the influence of the few, the super rich, and the corrupt. Americans already flush with cash and office holders inside the system grew wealthier, while the broader population saw the real value of their wages and property decline. As bills pile up, Wall Street celebrates yet another record year. Look around your kitchen table tonight. At least one or two family members include a son or daughter who moved back home because they could not afford to live on their own. Children who hold degrees but carry the crushing weight of student debt. The retirement system that older Americans receive tells the story not just of dreams deferred, but of the American dream that's lost its power. But decline and despair is not our story. We are Americans. We are the descendants of men and women who not only built the world's most powerful engine of prosperity with their bare hands and unshakable resolve, but our ancestors also exported their prosperity, not simply warfare, to the rest of the world. Today, we at Our Country, Our Choice want to write a new chapter in our American story. President Trump's return to the White House should be treated as the beginning of something fundamentally new, an era when Americans can reassert their dominance over policymaking in Washington. Your voice, the voice of America that built highways, won wars, and landed on the moon, must thunder yet again through the halls of power. The goal of Our Country, Our Choice is unchanged. We want to populate Washington with new men and women who will put America first, not second or last. We want to fight for change from town to town, city to city, and state to state. We want to restore not just our prosperity, but our identity and history as distinct people with a national culture that exalts freedom, the rule of law, and human dignity. We want America to be a place where every alarm clock rings with a purpose, every paycheck reflects real value, and every American child inherits the nation he or she deserves. We want to restore the foundations upon which effective long-term strategic power rests. These are in poor condition, if not ruinous shape. How should Americans proceed? The answer is straightforward. Leverage President Trump's victory and the developing fiscal crisis to reduce unneeded federal overhead, streamline investment, and harvest savings. Our Country, Our Choice thinks there are 5 lines of attack that must be followed and exploited. First, make America secure. America's commitments overseas are draining the Treasury and exhausting the armed forces. America's allies are military liabilities, not strategic assets. Conquering this problem demands action in 5 critical directions. We must disengage from conflict first and foremost, and de-escalate tensions around the world that threaten to drag our nation into war. Russia, with its military might, is not just flexing. They are showing us what happens when a nation commits to its defense over decades, not just election cycles. They have the technology, the manpower, and the military doctrine that is proving its effectiveness from the Arctic Circle to the Donbass. Meanwhile, Americans are bogged down in endless wars, our military stretched thin, and innovation stifled by bureaucracy. This means change in force structure. We need a daring new approach to national defense that reduces defense spending and trims the fat. By adopting a new grand strategy that prioritizes diplomacy and peaceful cooperation over military action, the United States can gain a competitive edge and strengthen national security. Second, make America safe. America's borders and coastal waters must be secured. Law enforcement needs the assistance and support of every American. For the police, war against criminality is unending. Americans must demand action to crush the drug-fueled criminality that spills across our borders every day. Systematically expelling those persons who came illegally to the United States is vital. Americans must regain control of immigration. We should seek the best individuals who are equipped to enter our society and become productive citizens. For too long, our justice system has tolerated lawbreakers and made law enforcement a nightmare. Our local, state, and federal law enforcement officers must be respected and obeyed. Laws that are not enforced are meaningless. Criminals thrive on our indulgence. If we do not alter this condition, our society will fail. Those who commit the crime must do the time. Third, make America prosperous. The realization that the United States is in fiscal freefall is beginning to sink in. We've spent ourselves into oblivion, and now the interest on the debt is well over $1 trillion a year. Today, debt is like a silent, stealthy tax, sapping our future. We can build our working and middle classes again by prioritizing energy production and addressing international trade inequalities. Domestic policies have seen a wash of wasteful spending from disastrous and divisive diversity, equity, inclusion to net zero to the immigration disaster. Abroad, we are fighting a war on two fronts in Ukraine and the Middle East. Too many policies have favored globalists and ideologically driven interests, not the American citizen and taxpayer. Finally, we must recognize the opportunities that engagement with BRICS can bring to us. We must prioritize American growth over globalist greed. With China, we need to play tough trade, but also seek areas of cooperation like environmental technology. With Russia, it is time to talk peace and cooperation, not war. We need diplomatic victories, not military standoffs. 4, make America healthy. A brighter, healthier future for America is now within reach. The confirmation of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services is a pivotal step in the direction of transforming our nation's approach to health and safety. We Americans are fortunate that countless numbers of dedicated healthcare workers work tirelessly to keep Americans healthy, but they cannot do it alone. Our food and health products often contain additives such as food coloring, artificial sweeteners, or harmful chemicals, many of which are banned in other countries due to the risks they pose to human health. Agencies like the Center for Disease Control, the National Institute for Health, the Food and Drug Administration, together with the United States Department of Agriculture, are subject to enormous pressure from the manufacturers of drugs, food, additives, and vaccines. Pressure from the private sector in many forms creates a troubling dynamic. Far too often, those responsible for protecting public health become financially entangled with the industries they regulate. Products like pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and food additives are not always adequately tested. In some cases, the men and women conducting the tests are funded by the very companies whose products they are approving. This not only fosters potential conflicts of interest, but opens the door to corruption that compromises public safety, especially for our children. This is a situation we cannot and must not tolerate. Any form of conflict of interest within our public health institutions must end in 2025. At Our Country, Our Choice, we are committed to supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and President Donald Trump in their efforts to root out corruption and restore integrity to our nation's health and safety systems. Together, we can ensure that America's future is not only brighter, but also healthier, free from undue influence and conflict of interest. 5th, make America smarter. This is really about education and training for employment. Our society is fraying at the edges. Too many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and the middle class has been decimated by COVID, the cost of living, and the faux push for diversity. We must slash wasteful spending and reform tax codes, but we must make primary education a path to employment. In addition to focusing on the fundamentals of education, mathematics, English, geography, science, and history, Our Country, Our Choice thinks that our public schools must teach what it means to be a good citizen, and why the individual citizen's contribution to American society is so important. It is more important now than ever to instruct children about patriotism and the importance of obeying the law. Schools that decline to do so should be defunded. The 4-year college experience must be re-examined. In practice, the college experience is often irrelevant to the average American who must work to earn a living. We need to make America a place where businesses want to start, grow, and stay. But we must also insist that businesses partner with educational institutions to make education useful for the average American. Finally, Our Country, Our Choice is launching a program dedicated to safeguarding the health of all Americans with a laser-like focus on protecting our children. We invite you to join us in this vital mission by visiting our website and signing up for our mailing list. America needs your activism and your voice to ensure a healthier future for generations to come. In summary, Our Country, Our Choice thinks an economic and societal crisis looms that bailouts and quantitative easing cannot stop. The 5 lines of attack constitute the bold course correction America needs to navigate the gathering storm safely. For too long, politicians in D.C. have been more focused on the next election than on the next generation. They are unwilling to act to mitigate the forces that are compelling us to decline. The globalists have benefited from this malign political short-sightedness, yet it is the normal American who pays the price for it. After World War II, America held 2/3 of the world's gold reserve and manufactured half of the goods made on Earth. Our economy was American dynamism in action. Our grandparents labored in factories and shipyards. They built the greatest middle class in human history. We must now repeat this performance. Investments in energy, agriculture, and high-end manufacturing point the way to a brilliant economic future. Millions of high-paying jobs can be created if we focus our investment in these areas. Finally, Our Country, Our Choice strongly urges the return of our military establishment to its core mission, national defense. Washington has plowed too many resources into the development of military power, resulting in the erosion of our national economic base. Too much money and too many lives have been squandered on failed foreign military interventions. When asked how to change a large business enterprise, the late, great Peter Drucker answered, "If you want something new, you must stop doing something old." People in any organization are always attached to the obsolete. President Trump knows this, and he knows that he must implement a new grand strategy for the United States, one that aligns with Peter Drucker's guidance and that diverges sharply from the past 30 years. Thank you for listening. May God bless you, our newly elected president, and the United States.